Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Riley McManus. A vigil was held in Kenora this week in honor of Bruce Frog. He's a man who was shot and killed by an OPP officer on June 25th. The vigil took place at Anishinaabe Park, the site where the tragic incident occurred. It was attended by Frog's family and friends, as well as municipal officials. And Kiiwetinoong MPP Sol Mamakwa. Justin Hardy reports.
55-year-old Bruce Frog was fatally shot by an OPP officer during the incident last Tuesday. Frog was one of the victims of notorious sexual abuser Ralph Rowe, and Kenora city officials say he was seriously in distress. Kiiwetinoong MPP Sol Mamakwa attended the vigil held at Anishinaabe Park where the tragic incident occurred. He says better supports are needed to address mental health issues that can arise for survivors of sexual abuse, as well as residential schools.
We need to be able to address those things. The proper supports, healing centers, healing initiatives. But I think also, over the past couple years, I visited, the Kenora District Jail, and a lot of the people that are there, 90% of the time are from First Nations in my writing. And, we need to be able to see some type of transition support.
Mamakwa says organizations that offer those supports need to be supported as well. The province's Special Investigations Unit is probing the circumstances surrounding Frog's death. The SIU says police located a man with knives at Anishinaabe Park and that he set fire to a building. One officer then shot the man. 3 investigators and 2 forensic investigators have been assigned to the case. Mamakwa says that he hopes to see better mental health training and policing, as well as an end to what he calls a shoot-to-kill response.
And we need to be able to talk about the racism, and we should not be afraid to talk about the racism because it exists. And for far too long, we continue to see First Nations people getting killed by the police, and we need to be able to find a better place as a society to be able to, make sure that we treat everyone as a human being, and I think that's most important.
Ed Mandaman, Kenora's newly appointed Indigenous Relations Advisor, was also at the vigil. He says he's heard from both Indigenous and non-Indigenous community members that the incident could have been handled a lot better and that lethal force should not have been used. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
A family of 6 in Webakwe First Nation is homeless after a fire destroyed a new house in the remote community on Monday. Chief Cornelius Wabah says fortunately the blaze did not claim any lives. It did cause some issues with electrical power and the provision of clean drinking water. Wabah says it takes a minimum of 1 to 3 years to replace a home in Webakwe, and he points to this incident as another reason why the proposed Ring of Fire supply road is needed to improve their community's infrastructure. In a historic move, LCBO workers across the province have hit the picket lines. It's the first strike in the 97-year history of the LCBO. Workers began picketing around the Northwest on Friday. The OPSU members say they're really committed to staying on strike until they get a deal they can feel good about. Lee Noonan reports.
This is the first ever LCBO strike. Spirits are high with the picketers here, but local union mobilizer Mo Marcinet says they would really rather not be making history this way.
Nobody's excited about being out on strike. We'd rather be at work serving the people of Ontario. But we're passionate about protecting the public revenue that the LCBO generates for the province. $2.5 billion last year went back into the public coffers, and we'd like to protect that.
Marcinet says privatization is the biggest sticking point in the negotiations, not only because of the loss of public funding, but also because jobs could be lost and smaller rural LCBOs could be shut down entirely.
Geraldton, Long Lac, out west to Fort Francis, Rainy River, west to Kenora and Vermilion Bay, Dryden. So, I mean, these are small communities, right? And so these are good jobs for those communities, and those good jobs could be lost.
And Makala is bargaining unit manager at the liquor store in Kakabeka. She's worried about her staff's job security.
If they get like the gas stations there and the grocery store there selling, they're not going to need us open as much because all we're going to have is hard liquor, right? Like the spirits. So yeah, it is a worry for us. It's a worry for my staff. I have 5 staff out there, including myself. So, I mean, it could be just me and a couple of casuals working after this.
According to the union, 70% of LCBO workers are casual, and changing that is another priority for them. Gary Kemp is one of those workers, even though he's been at the LCBO for nearly a decade.
It's really difficult. You start off, you have to make a commitment to be available to work, but they have no obligation to schedule you to work. So it can get really lean. There's no guarantee of hours at all. I mean, there's times that you make the choice as to whether you're gonna eat or pay the rent.
The strikers want more full-time positions and more permanent part-time positions to give workers like Kemp a chance at stable jobs. Marcinette says she hopes they'll be back to the bargaining table soon, but in the meantime, they're grateful for the support they're seeing from the Thunder Bay public. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Highway 17 near Rossport was closed for most of the day on Friday due to a fatal crash involving a transport. It happened just before 5 o'clock in the morning at Cavers Hill. Officers from the Nipigon OPP detachment, along with paramedics and volunteer fire crews from Scriber, Terrace Bay, and Nipigon, were all on the scene. The transport appears to have veered off the highway and crashed down a steep embankment before later catching on fire. OPP confirmed at least one person has been pronounced dead, and eyewitnesses say there may also be a second victim. The flames from the burning vehicle spread to the forest, and it took fire crews several hours to bring it under control. The highway reopened to one-lane alternating traffic at 5 o'clock on Friday. OPP in Thunder Bay and Nipigon have charged a transport driver related to an extremely unsafe pass that was caught on camera near Herkett on Monday night. This image was posted on the Northwest Region OPP Facebook page with the caption, "What's wrong with this photo?" The transport can be seen passing a U-Haul type vehicle pulling a minivan on a solid line heading towards a curve on Highway 1117. The driver was later pulled over by the OPP. He's been charged with careless driving, driving left of a center on a curve, and failing to stop on the right for an emergency vehicle. Geraldton District Hospital has overcome some of its staffing issues, but it's still continuing its search for more permanent doctors. Hospital administration hopes the community's quality of life and supportive environment will attract more physicians. Justin Hardy has more.
Geraldton District Hospital has seen some growth over the past few years as it keeps up with growing demand. Hospital CEO Daryl Galusha says the facility has gained some new equipment and outgrown some of the staffing issues.
We're seeing an increase in our permanent staffing. We're proud to say that we are moved beyond using agency staffing. Our HR department has successfully recruited a full complement of registered nursing staff. We're still looking for some RPNs and medical lab technologists, but we're really moving beyond the need for agency staff, and we're bringing in permanent staff to live in the community and stay in the area.
The hospital's emergency department is a 7-bed unit, including a trauma room where staff can provide urgent care and minor procedures. The hospital is now also the home of a brand new X-ray imaging machine. With all of the new healthcare staff employed at the hospital, Galusha says they still hope to attract more doctors to move to the community permanently.
We need some doctors. We need permanent doctors. We have a great group, strong group of locum physicians. We have one local doctor from here that lives here, and we have one local NP that lives here. But other than that, our rest of our physicians group is our locums. They come in for a couple weeks at a time and then they go out. They serve the needs of the community great, but we are looking for physicians to move to the community and live here.
Galusha says he hopes the good quality of life in the area and the supportive work environment of the hospital will attract the doctors the hospital needs. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
And we'll be back right after the break with a story about a Nipigon man who hasn't let the loss of his vision get in the way of his golf game. A young golfer from Nipigon lost his vision back in 2020, but it hasn't stopped him from pursuing his dreams. 23-year-old Hayden Folds is headed to the Canadian Blind Golf Open Championships in British Columbia this weekend. He was at Northern Lights Golf Course on Friday for his final practice session ahead of the tournament. Nev Van Pelt has the story.
Born blind in his left eye and experiencing complete vision loss in 2020, Hayden Folds' golfing journey has been an inspiring one, to say the least.
4 years ago, I was at the lowest point of my life, thinking things would never really get better, and I think with a lot of support around me, it kind of built me up back to this point. And anyone who's thinks their current situation isn't the greatest, I mean, things can always get better with the right mindset and the right people around you. And if I got out one person, I think that's special.
The 23-year-old from Nipigon is competing in his first Canadian Blind Golf Open Championship and has been training for this moment for over 2 years.
Not only did I surprise myself, but I surprised others in how fast I was kind of accelerating the process of golfing again. And I don't know if I'm necessarily better than I was before, but I feel more confident.
Folds has been training with local golf pro Jamie DePiero. Their lessons started in a simulator and progressed to ranges and courses, which has allowed him to build the confidence to compete in blind golf events. DePiero said setting up the golf ball is completely different for Folds and spoke about this process.
Example would be even on the putting green when he's trying to understand how hard to hit it. We have to be pretty precise with the distance so he can actually get an idea in his head how much force he needs to put behind it.
All 48 golfers in the upcoming tournament are paired with a sighted guide who assists with gauging distances, choosing the right club, and ensuring proper ball position and body alignment. Folds' father, David, will be joining him on the Bootleg Gap golf course on Sunday.
He'll make the final decision on what club he wants to hit. I can suggest to him. My main goal is setting him up and seeing where he's hitting the ball that day. If he's hitting behind the ball or ahead of the ball, then we adjust and just setting him up properly and let him do his thing.
The young golfer says his support system has been instrumental in building him up to this point, and he's looking forward to this experience.
Obviously, I want to shoot the lowest score possible, but being my first tournament, I think I'm just excited for the experience and the opportunity to meet new people with similar barriers.
Nev Van Pelt, TBT News.
The municipal pool in Nipigon won't open at all this summer due to a shortage of lifeguards. Without enough interest from local students, the township is already looking at getting creative with their hiring for next summer.
The pool is what they look forward to in the summertime, to cool off, to socialize with their friends, to have a great time. And it's really sad that it's not going to be there this year for them. So to the families and the seniors and the kids, we've done what we could do, and we're going to do better.
According to Mayor Suzanne Kuko, the main challenge with recruitment is that the week-long certification course is offered only a few times a year and never locally. So getting enough staff on board could take months of planning. They need 3 to 4 lifeguards to operate the pool. Kuko wants residents, especially kids and seniors, to know that the town staff are already working on understanding what went wrong this year and how to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Maybe we look at students as well as adults, fit retirees that are looking for a side hustle, or education assistants that maybe need some work in the summertime to supplement not being able to work in the summertime. So that kind of thing. Thinking outside the box and getting those lifeguards certified early.
How do you guys feel about the pool being closed for the whole summer?
Kind of bad. It sucks. I feel like it should be opened.
Sad but good because I can go to the beach.
It's kind of good but also bad because I like going to the beach.
The township will reimburse certification costs for lifeguards who do work at the pool, and Kuko encourages anyone who might be interested in being a lifeguard next summer to reach out soon. In October of last year, the National Council of Truth and Reconciliation challenged students throughout the country to create an image of what a reconciled Canada would look like to them. 25 different projects were selected, including a documentary made by Lac Seul First Nation member Anika Harrison, a grade 8 student attending school in Thunder Bay. Joel Medelson reports.
The documentary is called I Am Here Because They Survived, a daughter's conversations about residential school. It highlights the differences between the upbringings of her and her father with the goal of raising awareness on the topic.
My dad talked about his first days and how he got there and stuff. And I was just in disbelief that they would rip him away from his home, and he wouldn't see his family for like most of the year, and that must have been really hard for him, and it was really hard to hear about those stories.
If we did something wrong, it was punishment. It was a physical punishment all the time. And we witnessed others getting beaten by the supervisor, which made us really scared. It scared you when you watch a child getting beaten up.
Her father, Tom Chisel, attended the Pelican Lake Residential School from 1962 to 1968. While she was always aware of the events of her father's youth, she was never fully informed on the details.
I knew that he went to residential schools, but I didn't actually know what had happened there. So I think learning about that, it really made me understand how it was.
She blew us away with her documentary. We all cried. It was incredibly powerful and just so raw and real, and was different from everybody else's because she had firsthand experience and accounts from people who are close to her.
Along with the others selected, Harrison was invited to the Canadian Museum of Human Rights in Winnipeg to receive an award for her vision.
I was really nervous to speak in front of a bunch of people, but to be there with all of the elders and stuff and Manitoban dignitaries and other people who had these awesome projects and art stuff, it was really special to me, and I'm very proud of myself for that.
Harrison plans to share the documentary with the school board in order to spread awareness throughout Thunder Bay, and possibly even to the rest of Ontario. Joel Mendelson, TBT News.
Fort William First Nation was the site for a celebration last weekend. Chimeno Jitsowin opened its doors on Anemki Place with big plans for the future. The company is owned by a partnership of 7 First Nations and looks to help uplift Indigenous people to work on the Waasigan transmission line. It's described as a win for both the communities having their members trained and the project, which will receive another source of skilled labor. CEO Peter Collins says they'll be training people to fit into every role the $1.2 billion project has.
The training we're embarking on is heavy equipment, mechanical harvesting, camp cooks, surveyors, environmental people, whatever it needs to be to get the project completed in a good way.
It opens the opportunities for employment opportunities, training, capacity building. These type of projects certainly provide that right from administration into trades. This certainly will provide those opportunities to our First Nation members.
Each course will have different emission requirements. Chi-Mitsowin o Jitsowin officials say they will assess First Nation community members to meet those requirements. Up next, local students built a canoe to replace the one lost in a remote First Nation school fire. Representatives from a remote First Nation community were recently presented with a special gift by the graduating class of Algonquin Avenue Public School. The gift was the final product of a traditional Anishinaabe project the class had been working on over the whole school year. Justin Hardy reports.
During the school's year-end assembly, students in the grade 8 class unveiled what they've been working so hard on since September, a traditional birch bark canoe. The students participated in all parts of building the canoe, but agreed the best part was building it with each other. What was your favorite part about building the canoe?
My favorite part was probably making friends along the way and just having the community give.
My favorite part was getting along with all my classmates and my friends and talking to everyone. It brought everyone together inside of the school, and it was a nice community build that we did.
Some of the students who built the canoe are from Edmonton First Nation, which made it the perfect choice as a recipient. The canoe will also replace the one lost in a January fire that destroyed the community school. Representatives from Edmonton were in attendance at the unveiling. They said it was a heartwarming and thoughtful gift. Band counselor Derek Atlukin says he was thrilled to see traditional knowledge being taught in Thunder Bay schools.
It's actually really cool to have stuff like that taught, and especially in communities like here in Thunder Bay, and to see that they're teaching our kids how to make stuff like this. It's pretty hard. It's actually pretty time-consuming to build one of these kind of things. And how fast they made this was pretty surprising. It looks really nice.
It goes to show, even though you leave your community for education or work purposes, that your heart and your family will always be there. And I'm just very touched by our students that are attending this school, and I would like to thank them.
The canoe will be kept at Algonquin Avenue School until suitable storage space in the community is secured. Once Edmonton's new school is completed in a few years, the canoe will be put on display there. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
A Dryden High School graduate is one of the finalists in an international prom dress competition to win a free scholarship. However, this particular contest has a twist, as all the dresses must be created using only duct tape. Jaden Billick has the story.
18-year-old Monica Walsh has spent well over 100 hours handcrafting her duct tape dress, which took 13 rolls to create. She's striving to win a free scholarship on the website stuckatprom.com. With a top prize of a $15,000 scholarship, 100 contestants have entered, and Walsh is now one of the 5 finalists in the running.
So I've always been a pretty creative person, and I saw it online a couple times, but then I felt like I didn't have enough time to do it. But then a couple days later, my mom came into my room and she was like, you should do the Stuck at Prom scholarship. I was like, oh, I don't think I have enough time. But then I slept on it, and then I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Walsh says her goal for the dress was to push the limits of prom fashion by using eye-catching colors with intricate, detailed designs that perfectly reflects her runway-ready, bright personality.
My inspiration comes from the artist Romero Brito. He does pop art. He's a Brazilian artist, and he does lots of shapes with different fun patterns and colors.
Do you think this kind of sparked some interest in a fashion career in the future?
I've definitely thought of it. I'm gonna go into teaching chemistry, maybe, but I definitely want to keep this as a hobby.
Walsh is hoping to garner a lot of votes from her hometown of Dryden, along with Thunder Bay, where she spends most of her summers. Anyone wanting to help her win the top prize can cast votes every 24 hours on the website stuckatprom.com. Voting closes on July 10th, and the winner is expected to be announced on July 17th. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
The Matawa First Nations are aiming to improve the mental health and wellness of Indigenous youth in their 9 communities. Matawa recently hosted their annual Youth Mental Health Summit in Thunder Bay, featuring keynote speakers, workshop activities, and a powwow. The 2-day event was all about promoting physical and mental health for youth through programming, support, and education. Those were all key topics throughout the workshops and activities at the Nor'Wester Hotel. The youth were split into breakout groups to reflect on what makes them special and what supports make them feel safe in their communities. Guest speaker and Anishinaabe designer Ocean Kiana had the opportunity to share her story with the youth on Thursday.
It was really nice talking to the community and coming back to Thunder Bay and to talk a little bit about my journey and who I am as a fashion designer and Native woman doing what I'm doing out in the world. I never thought I'd be in a position like this to share my story to an audience, so it was really impactful.
So this is actually our second year doing this and hopefully making it an annual thing. So it's a time for youth from our 9 Matawa communities to come together, create positive connections, come to Thunder Bay, as a lot of them will end up moving to Thunder Bay for high school. And this year our theme is really focusing on celebrating your uniqueness and using that to really just empower them and make their voices even louder.
And that wraps up this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. We hope to see you again.